Ah, I suppose this would be a good way to start off a cast iron live video there. Not a bad start, especially since this is what we're going to be using tonight. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday. This is a long-running tradition that a number of the smaller YouTube cooking channels have been doing for the past several years or more. We do a cast iron video on Wednesdays, which gives us an excuse, really, to play with our cast iron and show off our cast iron, and most of all, to have fun, because that's really the whole point of this whole cooking thing, after all, isn't it? I mean, if it's not fun, why do it? And definitely, this has been a very fun hobby, and I'm very glad to have been part of this on my YouTube channel, going on about just about 4 years now. Believe it or not, I've been doing these live videos almost every Wednesday. So I can only appreciate, as always, everybody who has been kind enough to show up here tonight. Let me turn that on too. Kind enough to show up here on Wednesdays, in that we actually have a fair number of regular visitors to this channel here who do seem to enjoy the content that I put out, and thank you very much for that. As they always say, what did they say? Like, subscribe, share, and all the rest of that. And I'd like to, and especially though, I'd like to say hi to the folks who have been kind enough to show up here once again. Like Rocket Cave or Prince Vincent Price's The Tingler. Oh yeah, that was a famous movie. And hello Huggy Bear, and hello Pipgorn. Hello, Clico and Lorenzo Antonio. Good evening. Nice to see you here on this channel, Lorenzo. And hello to William Hurt. The Tingler was one of those gimmick movies that in the, I think it was the 1960s, the most famous thing about it was the promotion for it, in that a few movie theaters, they actually wired electrodes to the to the seats of the theater. When the audience were watching the movie, at a certain point, they would literally get a very small electric shock. And that was why they called it The Tingler. I don't think it was really that big a hit, because I don't think anybody ever did that again after that movie. But yes, hello as well to Val's Black Cat's Rules, and hi to the other Sharon. Well, if you're the other Sharon, well, thank you for being here, since I don't see any other Sharon here tonight except you, at least not yet. So, and hello, I'm sick of non-smoking commercials. They're always so infuriating, supercilious. Well, yeah, that's true. Even for those of us who don't smoke. Shirt is bright. Well, it's a pretty standard shirt. All I can say is that I've got a nice spotlight here. But well, thank you very much for that. But most importantly, as I showed you already, we are here to play with cast iron. And so we're going to be starting out. Actually, this is going to be part 2, because I should say as well, happy Juneteenth to everybody here, because this is one of those holidays, one of those federal holidays that's really meant to commemorate an important moment in history. And it certainly was an important moment in history. This was the more or less considered to be the official day that slavery was essentially outlawed in the United States of America. Thank goodness. And that was the really pretty much after the end of the Civil War, and we can get on into all kinds of history about that. But I'm sure there's been a lot of talk about Juneteenth since then. You know, it was actually a long-running tradition for decades before they decided to make a federal holiday out of it, which is fine. Really, I mean, considering the subject matter, I would say, and pretty much it's a good excuse to bring that to mind. And that's why I got the idea as well. Hello, Granny Graham, just listening while cooking. Well, I hope you enjoy this too. And Val's Like Cats Rules, my sister's birthday too. Well, happy birthday to your sister, and congratulations on that. But yeah, I mean, that's, as I said, I was really discussing this with my current housemates, who are going to be actually moving in onto their own land in about a couple of weeks or so. So we're looking forward to that. However, we brought up the subject of really making something in honor of Juneteenth, something traditional, and apparently red is indeed has been something of a tradition for Juneteenth. So, well, that's one reason why we've got the red shirt tonight. That's also why we can finally get on to it. to the cooking, that is. That's also why we're going to be starting out here by making a red velvet cake tonight. Any excuse to make another cake is a good one as far as I'm concerned. And so I like the idea of making a red velvet cake for Juneteenth. So let's get started and we will go from there. And besides, that way we get to play with some vintage cast iron. So thank you. And thank you for your patience, everybody. And which means it's time once again to go on the roller coaster ride that we do every time here. And let's take a look here if I can bring this down. There we go, at a nice big mixing bowl, the one I use, of course, for my KitchenAid mixer. My cake my cake recipe is on my website, Cast Iron Chaos. If you go to motomac.com and look under the desserts section, you will see the video for cast iron chocolate cake, which is what we're going to be using as the basis for this red velvet cake, with a couple of differences, of course, to make it more like red velvet. For starters, these are half-cup cups, so I need 4 of these, which means I'm doing 2 cups of flour. 1, 2. Okay, better not spill it. That would not be good. 3. Again, these are half cups. And 4. One thing about this recipe that I'm proud of is that we'll pretty much make it all in one bowl, except for the part where we crack the eggs. And okay, I just took off the cover. Oh, there it is. Here's the cover. Got to put that back on, of course. Let me see. From here in our dry ingredients, get past this screensaver again. Now to this, we do 2 cups of granulated sugar. Fortunately, I already measured out the sugar. So here's 2 cups of sugar to go with our 2 cups of flour. And then from here, I did not have a chance to measure this out, so I've got to do 1 cup of cocoa powder, which is easy enough. Let's get out our 1/4 cup and measure 4 of these. 1, 2, 3. Come on, do this right. 3 and 4. Another nice thing about using a metal mixing bowl here is that I can tap this spoon against the bowl here without any worries of breaking it. All right, so there is our 1 cup of cocoa powder. Cover this so that it doesn't spill all over the place like that. Spill all over the place. Ugh. Okay, yeah. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah. Go all over the place. Now we get out the baking powder and the baking soda, and here we use 1 teaspoon each of those. So yeah, again, this is a really nice recipe. I mean, really, it's like once I learned how easy it is to make a cake from scratch, I mean, I can't remember the last time that was 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I can't remember the last time I made a boxed cake mix. Now, there's nothing wrong with using boxed cake mix. Now, I am very much in the favor of people who just have fun cooking. And that means if you use boxed cake mix and cornbread mix and pancake mix and all that, more power to you. I don't consider myself to be one of those foodie snobs who says, oh dear, I make everything from scratch. I make all my pasta from scratch. And things like and I brew my own coffee and I grow my own cocoa seeds and all that. So no, I am unfortunately not that skilled, and so I don't have a problem here doing things like that. Even though, as I just mentioned, it's really this easy to make a cake from scratch as well. Because I've just added a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt is coming up. And then we mix our dry ingredients together, and it's really as easy as that. All right. So let's throw in the salt. And now that we've done that, we get to whisk all of these together. I say this every time because I mean it every time. Whisking your dry ingredients is very important. That is definitely a lesson I learned the hard way. So I'm more than happy to be doing it like this. Besides, after this, we get to break out the electric mixer, and then we will do some more mixing along with the wet ingredients. But there we go. Here is our base cake mix, which this I think is pretty much what you get when you buy the cake mix in the store, the box cake mix in the store. I mean, after all, you still have to mix in your own egg and oil and all the rest of that. So here is our basic cake mix. And then to here, now we get to pull out, as I mentioned, pull out the mixer. So let's move this a little bit. Okay, put this first. I'm going to put the mixer into view. Make sure this thing is on good and tight. There we go. Means I should actually raise this a little bit. There we go. And again, this is what we get for doing YouTube Live on a very low budget. Okay, in goes paddle, up goes the mixer. Now I should be able to adjust this a little bit. There we go. All right, there's a pretty good view, which means time to start mixing. Okay, so far so good. The only thing I make from scratch is a mess, says Fuzzfork. You and me both. Welcome to my kitchen. I certainly don't have to argue with that. When I add the cocoa powder, I usually sift to avoid lumps, and it does. Yeah, that's a good. Actually, that's not a bad plan. Although whisking it also doesn't do too badly. As you can see, this seems to have knocked out just about all of the lumps as well. So from here, let's move into our wet ingredients, which means while we're doing this, might as well stop this for the moment because I've got one other step here, and that is the eggs. So I was a little hasty here. It's time. Let's move over here where all of our ingredients are. And I've got the ingredients for 2 dishes here. Hello. What you folks up to? Oh, you need to go out? Okay, yes, okay. Excuse me 1 second. I've got company here and they are stepping out. Just head out this way and we should be good. Now, meanwhile, as I mentioned, we are getting out the eggs here. Like I said, I've got enough ingredients here for 2 dishes here, and I've got to be careful. I mean, it's a good thing, like, for instance, when I added sugar, I didn't make a mistake and throw in that bowl of onions instead. That would not have been good. And for Jim 44, well, good night, off to bed. Oh, it must have been a long day. It certainly has been a long day here as well. Okay, so, and now that we've done this, let's start cracking our eggs, shall we? All right, do this right. Let's see here. Here we go. Oops, there goes a piece of shell already. Not a good start. There's one. Actually, that turned out pretty good. Here comes 2. And yep, there's a more piece of shell. Always happens, doesn't it? Fortunately, I learned what you do is you use the shell to get the shell, and it goes right in, as opposed to using your finger where the shell always runs away from it. And then finally, beep, beep. And then finally, here's the 3rd egg. Okay, good. No more shell. But that's why I did this in the mixer, or in a separate bowl rather. So let's head back here. And now we can once again start mixing. All right, you guys need to step this way. Oops. Don't worry, nothing much. That was just an aluminum ice tray. All right, are you stepping out or in? All right, go ahead. You can step around this way. Well, if you think you can make it, please be careful. Okay, thank you for waiting, everybody. Now, back to here. Here we go with our wet ingredients. 3 large eggs. Plop, plop, and plop. So there's a start. Next comes 1 cup of buttermilk, which fortunately I did prepare in advance. So we get to just simply put this right in. Boy, this thing has a really nasty consistency, doesn't it? Gotta be careful there. Okay, and then from that, and also one other thing is with this particular recipe, I actually use some hot water to help dilute it all. I could use coffee, but really, since this is more of a velvet cake than a fudge cake, the hot water should be sufficient. All right, and I might as well use the same cup as the buttermilk anyway. So that's what these bubbles are on the top. They're just the residue from the buttermilk. There we go. This in itself is a, oh yeah, this gives it a nice consistency already. All right, so far so good. And let me see. Parmesan, baking soda, whisk and cracked eggs. Use the electric mixer, mixing the eggs, then buttermilk and water. All right, and now from here, normally the recipe calls for oil, but instead of oil, I am using some melted butter, which I melted in my Lady Best cast iron skillet here. 1/3 of a cup to be precise, or slightly over 5 teaspoons. I figure that should give it a nice buttery taste. Dig out this spatula here. Scrape the rest of this butter residue. All right. And while we're doing that, I had better start heating up this cast iron skillet as well. Okay, so far so good. All right, we're almost done with our batter already. Okay, now from here, we've done all this. Here's where things get a little bit different. First, we do add some vanilla extract. So let me dig out my vanilla extract. Just a little bit should be enough. Okay. However, as I mentioned, this is going to be a red velvet cake as opposed to a fudge cake. So we do have something different to add. All right, happy birthday as well to feline friend and sibling. Corey, it was a wonderful, unexpected win. Well, okay, that's good. Batter is looking good. Well, I like to think so. However, now we've got 2 things we need to add. One of which is, this is kind of like a secret ingredient that I do with making red velvet cake. It's well known. They say that red velvet cake is supposed to be just like a chocolate cake with red food coloring added. Well, there is one little thing that I do like adding to this red velvet cake, and you're not going to believe what it is. Balsamic vinegar, and I'm not kidding. I'm going to put maybe about a tablespoon or so of balsamic vinegar into this. That will definitely give it just a bit of a taste that will separate it from your typical chocolate cake. All right. Do you believe the black cutting board? Oh, I see. Okay. Finally, here's the other thing. Yep. The food coloring. And the thing is that every time I have made red velvet, I have seemed to have I've been too light on the food coloring because it always turns out to be more like a dark brown. So I guess I had better be liberal, so to speak, with this food coloring. Please don't skimp. All right, there goes a whole tube of red food color. You know, at this point, I have no red food coloring, but I've got pretty much a ton of blue and yellow food coloring left in my cabinet. Seems like I go through red far more than the other colors. But okay, there we go. Hopefully that will be enough to make this more of a red velvet cake. But guess what? Oops, do you believe we're done? All right, so now that we've done that, that means it's time we get to do one other thing. Time to start playing with some cast iron. All right, I concur. Yeah, I do believe it's that black cutting board which he's had for some time. I think he had vinyl formica counter on his other homes. Not sure who you're referring to. It might be, well, if nonetheless. Okay, as I said, it's time to start playing with some cast iron. So that means we get to take this out. All right, that means I gotta remove this paddle, scrape it off. And into the sink it goes. Take this out. Okay. Ugh. Because oh, come on. Why is this getting stuck now? Don't panic. There we go. Because I have all of those other ingredients scattered all around here, I don't have as much room here on the counter as I would like. So that means I'm going to have to move the mixer right away in order to have more room here for the cast iron. So let me just move this back to its traditional place. There we go. And just like that, we actually have room here. Because now, here's the part. If you've seen me make cakes on this channel, and I'm hoping you have, you know what's coming next. Next is I get to bring out cast iron trivet. Well, it is actually a cast iron trivet. I think this is like an enamel trivet from China or something. Break out my gloves because I get to take a preheated cast iron cake pan out of the oven. All right. Are we getting a weekly lodge? Oh, are we getting a weekly lodge fluted bunt pan giveaway anytime soon? Well, I'm not sure, Serratus. Considering how much those things cost, I don't know when I might be able to afford to give one away. And besides, what we're doing now is not a lodge cake pan this time. So let's get this out of the oven as we get to play with. Yeah, this is hot, all right. A vintage fluted cake pan, cast iron bunt pan or cake pan, which is not lodge at all. In fact, this is known. This is a classic cake pan that might be from Europe. I'm not sure. I don't have any markings on it, unfortunately. But collectors of cast iron bunt pans say this is part of a Triple Crown series. Namely, 3 of these pans were named after royalty, and this particular one is the Monarch. So that's what we have here. This is actually slightly smaller than the Lodge cake pan. To this, it's time to start spreading Crisco all over this cake pan because this is my favorite method for baking a cake in a cast iron cake pan. This does not have a 100% success rate, but my success rate on this has been very high, and including in this cake pan. So I'm quite happy to do it here. What it does mean, though, is that I have to cover every inch, every bit of the surface here with melted Crisco. And that's exactly what I've done here. I'm spreading it around right now, trying to make sure I don't miss anything, especially up here over the edges. And a little bit here, a little bit there, and here and there. You know, interestingly enough, even though this design is more elaborate, it seems to be less deep. And well, it's easier to reach every spot it is than with the traditional bundt cake pan. So I actually like this design a lot. This, I think, was one of the best scores of my life, quite frankly, and I'm quite very, very happy to be able to use this particular cake pan. But there we go. Now that we've done that, time for the next step, which is where we put the batter in. So move this down a little bit carefully, move this to the side, and break out the newly prepared cake batter. All right, put this basting brush aside so it doesn't fall over. Put my gloves back on. And in we go. First, the extra oil we can pour into there. Okay, just like making cornbread. What a coincidence. Yeah, it's well, it could be because I actually based this method on the standard method for making cornbread. And so far it's been quite successful. Now let's get this all mixed together. And here we go. I know you want the focus to be on that. So get this all mixed in, and in we go. Oh yeah, just like cornbread, I can definitely hear the sizzle. In fact, because this thing is a little smaller, I actually have a little bit of batter left over. Well, we will deal with that. However, here is the cake pan with its batter already starting to congeal. So let's get over to the oven. Put this in. And part one will be done as the cake bakes. All right, a one, a two, carefully, a three. There we go. Oof. And the last thing I need to do is immediately turn the temperature down on this because this was heated to 425. Try to do this right. There we go. Bake. Bring this down to 350 so that the cake will cool as it bakes. There we go. All right. The time now is 8:28. So in 55 minutes, at 20 past 9, the cake will come out of the oven. Actually, since this is a smaller cake pan, I might even do this in 45 minutes. So instead of 9:20 or 9:18, might even try doing it at 9:13. All right, 30 minutes so far, and you already have it in the oven. Well, how do I do it? Well, I'm not bragging, but preparing the ingredients in advance goes a long way, that's for sure. I'd say that certainly helped, as you saw. Yep. Also, again, this was a very simple recipe. It didn't require a lot of ingredients, and as you saw, it's a very liquid batter, so it mixed in very easy. All right. Wait, did you add coffee? I did not add coffee to this one. I just used hot water. The main reason why is that this is a red velvet cake as opposed to a fudge cake. And so as much as I like the dark taste of a fudge cake, for the red velvet, I wanted it to have a slightly different flavor. And that's why I actually mixed in some balsamic vinegar with that. However, now that we've done that, let's get on to part two, shall we? Part two is probably the easy one in that we're going to make some rice pilaf. And oh, gee, what do we see on the side here? We see a large cast iron pan. In fact, this is the large Blacklock skillet, which I use nicely as a chef skillet. However, over here on this side, here's the pan that we saw. I can probably even lower this now. Lower my tripod a little bit. There we go. And here's what we saw before, namely, come on, okay. Now, yay for a leather handle cover. Here it is again, the Griswold. This is a Griswold number 10, 11.5-inch cast iron skillet. So, yep, this is what we're going to be using to make us some rice pilaf. All right. Oh yeah, Cynthia. I actually realized I haven't been using this one enough. I definitely need to freshen this up, and so using it tonight is a good excuse to do so. As I've said before, a lot of these videos I do especially so that I have an excuse to work through my collection and keep them as fresh as possible. Right. But as I mentioned, this is another traditional dish, a nice and easy Southern style of dish that we're putting together now. Rice pilaf, once again. So let me bring those. Oops, I'm looking at the wrong messenger here. Let me bring this up here. Here we go. Okay, for this one, of course, rice pilaf, we start with some butter. And boy, definitely we've got this wonderful heat wave going on. Wonderful it may not be the right word for it, but um, we start out. Oh, yeah, definitely. Woof. There we go. That definitely softened all right with a quarter cup of butter. In fact, better turn this down already. I only had this on medium, but look at this. This thing is browning almost instantly. So, as I said, I only heated this up on medium. I probably should have heated it up a little less than that, which means I better get the rest of it in as fast as possible because we do not want to burn this butter. All right. So the next step here is 1 cup. Let me see if I'm doing this right. Magic, yeah, that's right. Now here we have 1 cup of orzo pasta, and we toast it in the butter, which I'm more than happy to do. We really only need to do this for maybe a couple of minutes or so, just to be sure that it's all well toasted and that it properly absorbs the butter. Considering that this is a hot cast iron pan, this definitely is not going to take long at all. Yay again for this leather handle cover. Definitely helps to be able to hold onto this as we stir. So in essence, we start off by doing a little bit of stir frying in butter. So how can you go wrong there? All right, and while we're doing this, let me see here. You do fine, Lewis. Different strokes, different folks. I had a sister that took 6 to 8 hours to cook one simple dish. She cooked one dish at a time instead of just doing it. Yeah, everybody has their own methods, I would think. So, Serratus, do you have an opinion on why they only do limited runs of sought-after cast iron like the fluted pan? I can't imagine manufacturers and care about the reselling value. I don't think it's the reselling value. I think based on their history and their marketing, they don't want to overproduce because those cast iron cake pans, as I've understand, I've had folks at Lodge who actually work for Lodge have told me those cast iron cake pans, the fluted pans, they are a monster to make. They are very, very difficult. On their production line, reportedly, they have a failure rate, or rather of not passing the quality control of up to 25%. So meaning that maybe 1 out of 4 of those pans don't even make it off the production line. So it's very difficult to make them. Considering that, they want to be sure that they actually sell as many of them as possible. Now, we here in this very niche market of cast iron collecting, really, it's like the cast iron bunt pan is indeed very, very highly desired. And that's why, in fact, it's so highly desired. That's why they initially re-released the bunt pan in 2018. And then 5 years later, they re-released it again, as opposed to the other pans in the Legacy series that were re-released once and we have not seen them again, such as the fish pan, the big fish fryer, which I'm glad to have, and the breakfast skillet, which even I didn't bother getting. So yeah, I mean, they want to be sure that they make what sells. They don't just want to make millions and millions of them because there's no guarantee that they're all going to sell. They make millions and millions of those cast iron skillets because they sell. I mean, really, the whole point, of course, is just that they want to make their business. They want to make revenue. So they do this based on what they think will produce the maximum amount of revenue. And beyond that, I could only say to take it up with the folks at Lodge, because I'm not with Lodge, and I really don't have any other inside knowledge about that. I do not own much cast iron yet, but I do have that same Griswold number 10, and congratulations to that fuzz fork. I've no doubt you get a whole lot of use out of it. I'm wearing red and making a red velvet cake for the occasion. Yes, I am, Clico, and I'm glad to do so. Yeah, in Cake Lock. After the chocolate funk video, I was watching like a shark for the reissue, but it sold out immediately. I thought they're still available now. I mean, they actually had them at the Lodge store when I was there for the National Cornbread Festival. Take another look on their website right now. You may still be able to find the Lodge cake pan. That would be my suggestion. And the other nice thing is that the re-release of the Lodge cake pan has driven down the cost of the vintage cake pan market, and that they're still expensive. They could go for anywhere from $100 to $200, but that's not like the $300 or $400 they were selling for before they were re-released. So yeah. Okay, finally I've done this much. Now from here, we get to stir in some onion. So here is some onion. In we go, and cook this until the onion is translucent, which is nice and easy. Oh, good, nice sizzle there. I'm glad about that. So definitely this pan has not become too cool. So I'm happy about that. And also, I don't see any indication that butter burned either. I definitely do not have any burn smell coming from this. So I think we're doing pretty good here. Now it's really just a matter of mixing all this around. And then once this is translucent, we get to do some minced garlic. So that will be the next thing. Then from there, that's really not much more. After that, we actually add our rice. Did I forget to wash the rice? I think I did. All right, I had better take the time to do that and wash some rice. I do have it already. 1 cup of long grain rice. I already have it there in a bowl. I mean, as I said, I already have some long grain rice, but I realized I forgot to wash it. So let's do this as quickly as we can. That means, actually, let's stir this a little bit more, because obviously I don't want to burn this. Burning is a no-no. On the other hand, I'm getting a nice toasty smell already, so we are not doing too badly at all. But at the same time, let's head over here, get out our strainer, and try to do this as quickly as we can. Well, my method for washing rice is a little unorthodox, but I do it in a manner that saves water. So there's one, two, and just slosh the rice around. And here comes 2. Yeah, so I mean, I don't just run it until the water runs clear. I do it this way in order to conserve a little water. Considering I just paid my water bill yesterday, or was it today? I think it was today, in fact. Yeah, I'm definitely much interested in conserving water, definitely. However, give me a second, please, to stir the pan one more time. Okay, so far so good. Now comes number 3. I will say this stuff seems a little easier to wash than the jasmine rice that I use all the time, because this is looking pretty good already. So there we go then. That means here is our rice, which is good because that is going to be the next thing to add to this skillet. mean, we have gotten this far. We have to wait until the onions are translucent. And from the looks of it, I think that would only be in a couple more minutes. Ah, yes. Rice pilaf. Well, apparently pilaf is actually not like, well, no, pilaf is the method used for making this rice, in that you toast it first before cooking it. So that's really different from your typical method of just simply boiling the rice. As such, yeah, I think that's one reason why we like rice pilaf so much. It takes a little bit more effort, but the end result is definitely worth it. And by the way, Louis J, search for cast iron magic. Oh yeah, dark chocolate fudge bundt cake. Go to my new website. Remember, I had to rebuild my website. Oh, you're talking about the video. That's one way to do it. But go to my website, motomac.com. Go under the recipe section, Adventures in Hulamancy, and then from there is the desserts. Also, I do have a direct link on the on that same video that you mentioned there. Okay, getting so far so good. But yeah, as I mentioned, different people have different methods, and the fact that I was able to get that cake into the oven in 30 minutes, well, I guess that means at least I have kind of matured as a cook. I've said enough times I've been an amateur cook for the past 10, 15 years. I'll probably be an amateur my whole life, but at least I think I'm getting better at it, where I can do things like put a cake together in 30 minutes. Although, as I said, that also had to do a lot with the prep work, having the prep work done in advance. Okay, now that we have the onions translucent, here we add a little bit of minced garlic. So I better, here we go. Let's use a fork for this. So, because yes, I admit it, I do use the again the jarred stuff with the minced garlic, which is what I was saying earlier. The part about making box cake mix. Yeah, I do not consider these things. Come on, why can't I put the lid on this? There we go. I do not consider these things to be cheating. Rather, there was this quote that from a person on the cast iron cooking group that I have taken to heart. In cooking, there is no cheating. There are only shortcuts. Because after all, the end result, as long as you and your guests enjoy it, that's really what's most important. I mean, if you're cooking for a cooking competition, well, then presentation counts. But other than that, the most important thing is how it tastes and how everybody likes it. So yeah, we can argue another time about purists who only use their natural ingredients from scratch and all the rest of that. But now that we have mixed that garlic in, time for the rice that we just did. Flop. So that was 1 cup of pasta, and this is 1 cup of extra long grain rice, as opposed to the jasmine rice I normally use. Yeah, I actually went and got a little package of extra long grain rice, especially for this. Told you're also supposed to use wild rice, but I could not find wild rice. So we will have to be satisfied with extra long grain and of course the orzo. Okay, mix all of this in. Toast this a little bit. Bit more, make sure it's all completely mixed in and covered with the lovely butter and onion mixture. And then from here, here's the part where we add 4 cups of liquid. Liquid meaning that I have some chicken broth and then topped it off with water. So here is 4 cups coming in, because this recipe still uses the 2-to-1 ratio. There was 2 cups of orzo and rice. 1 cup of orzo, 1 cup of rice. And to this, we have 4 cups of liquid. All right, now from here, we need to bring this to a boil. Let me see. Stir in rice, turn heat to high, and bring to a boil. Okay, yeah, just like the recipe that I always use. We don't cover it until it is boiling, so we simply leave it as is. Okay. All right. Where are we at this point? Louis J. I misunderstood. I heard and read a few comments about a large cake pan. Wasn't sure what was said. Well, we were talking about the large fluted cake pan. Even though I did not use the large fluted cake pan tonight, I have used that large pan quite a few times, even as recently as last weekend when I made a vanilla cake. But tonight I wanted to use the other cake pan, the vintage, probably European cast iron cake pan that I was lucky enough to score. And so that's what we have now in the oven. Right. Because the Amazon warehouse workers need one. The conditions they work are horrid. Oh, you must be talking about unions as well. And yeah, sadly, that is indeed the case too. And yeah, that is a nasty subject. I binge watched videos during the pandemic. Well, okay, well, I'm glad you like Birmingham Stove and Range. Yeah, I mean, I've said many times why that's probably my favorite vintage cast iron maker. So thank you so much about that. Let's see, going up here, video I was thinking about is called The Legendary Tunnel of Fudge Cake. Oh yes, that one, which I need to attempt again eventually because I still didn't get that one quite right. But that cake is apparently a real to make. And yeah, I definitely discovered that as well because as you saw, even in that video about the Tunnel of Fudge Cake, that one there was my 4th attempt at making that cake. The first 2 just completely flopped. The 3rd one was successful, and that inspired me to make the 4th one. And even that, I still need to keep practicing there. So at some point or another, I'm going to have to do the Tunnel of Fudge once again, maybe in about another month or so. Yeah, because as I said, these cast iron Wednesday videos we've been doing, everybody seems to like the fact that the last week Wednesday of the month, which is gonna be next week, oh man, is Wok Wednesday, where we do stir fries and Asian wok cooking and the like. And then, but so maybe in about another month or so, we'll do more baking, and I might try again the the Tunnel of Fudge and see what happens this time. That might be a project. Although I should mention something. Normally, the first Wednesday of the month on this channel, I've been doing a cast iron discussion. This time it's not going to be that because in this case, the first Wednesday of July just happens to be, of course, the day before the 4th of July. And well, really because of the way my schedule has turned out, this means this time I'm going to be doing something very special on Wednesday, July 3rd. I'm going to start my live video at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. And it's probably going to last about 3 hours or so. And what am I going to do in 3 hours of live video? I'm going to actually break out my propane burner in the outside, take out a big cast iron pot, and make jambalaya. So yeah, I'm going to do that all live on Cast Iron Wednesday in 2 weeks. And that way I will have it ready to bring to a cookout that a close friend of mine is doing. Oh, good. I just noticed this is boiling already on the 4th of July. So there we go. It's boiling, which means now we get to cover this. And what do we cover a Griswold pan with? A Griswold lid. So let's put this lid on. Turn the heat down to low. And let me see, according to the recipe here, Reduce heat to medium low, cover the skillet, and simmer until rice is tender and liquid has been absorbed, about 20 to 25 minutes. So that means, what time is it now? It is 8:52. Oh gosh darn it. That means it looks like this rice is going to be uncovered just around the time the cake comes out of the oven. Gee, that sure is convenient, isn't it? Or at least we start testing the cake then. Let me see. However, there is another step that we're going to be doing with this particular rice pilaf, in that we're actually going to be adding a couple more ingredients to this, namely some toasted pecans, and believe it or not, a few cherries. This is based on the recipe that I'm trying out tonight, where I'm trying something a little bit different. Especially, again, this is supposed to be like a southern style rice pilaf. Okay, is that a Griswold skillet as well? Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. At the very beginning of this video, I showed you the bottom of this skillet, Louis. This is a Griswold large block logo, LBL, number 10 size cast iron skillet. And this particular pan, in fact, was one of my life lessons that I learned in the early days of being a cast iron fanatic. My story is this. In the early days, we're talking like maybe about 2011 or 2012. Yeah, probably about 2012 it was, in fact, when I was really starting. I had really caught the cast ironitis, of course, and I really wanted to build up a nice big collection of cast iron pans. Pretty much, if I saw it and it was cast iron, I wanted it. And like well, I don't know if it would be fair to call me a novice, but I was definitely a newbie in those days. I got it into my head that I really, really wanted a big Griswold skillet. It seems like everybody starts out that way. Even I remember Jeff Rogers, when he first came onto the scene. He was, Jeff Rogers, the culinary fanatic. When he first came onto the scene, he was really heavy into collecting Griswold. He built up a nice collection of Griswold skillets. Um, and while I could not do something like that because I certainly couldn't afford it, I got it into my head that I wanted a Griswold skillet. And so I went searching, and on eBay, I found this number 10 Griswold skillet. Yes, I know. I went on to eBay. Let's suffice to say, this was my life lesson, all right. In that, I actually got what I wanted. Namely, I got this skillet plus this cover, and well, I did pay through the nose for it. I don't think it was Okay, I don't think it was as outrageous as a price as you might find a Griswold number 10 for on eBay these days. But yeah, I still paid through the nose for it. However, here's the lesson I learned. About 2 weeks after I acquired this Griswold skillet and lid from eBay, I went to the Brimfield Antique Show. And for the very first time. And I could not have been there more than 15 minutes when what did I come across? This exact same pan, this Griswold number 10 large block logo skillet. And it was selling for half the price that I paid for it on eBay. So, yeah, that was my life lesson. That was when I learned eBay is expensive. And what I also learned is patience, young Jedi, patience. You really don't want to grab everything. 1 second, please. I just want to be sure my guests are okay. Everything okay up there? You guys all right? Yes. Okay, just making sure. I have visitors here. I heard a noise from upstairs. I had to be sure everything was okay. Anyway, came across some nice ones at the local Goodwill. Well, in fact, I pick up stray pot lids at yard sales, just stainless and glass. Yeah, that's always a good one. Yes. Is Newer Lodge worth buying? Says Thomas Camacho. Yes, it is. I have quite a few Newer Lodge pans in my collection, including more Lodge 10-inch skillets than I really know what to do with. I also have the Lodge fluted cake pan. I also have the Lodge skull pan. So yes, I definitely have a number of modern day large skillets here. And as such, I will definitely say that that's probably the best skillet you could possibly get if you want to start out with cooking in cast iron. Go to Wally World or whatever and get yourself a 10-inch modern day large cast iron skillet. And in fact, since I'm talking about it so much, I might as well pull one off of my rack here, and let's see what we can find. Like this one, for instance. Okay, let me bring this one over here. Here is a modern day large 10-inch skillet. Okay, this angle is terrible. Let me move this back. There we go. Here is a modern day large 10-inch skillet. You know, it's got the large logo on the front and everything like that. In fact, this was made in 2020. This particular one, in fact, is the Rosie the Riveter skillet that they made specifically in the year 2020. And this is one of those large cast iron pans that I'm very glad to own. However, I also use it as much as I can. This is not a wall hanger. And in that respect, this is as good as any modern day large cast iron skillet. So if the question is modern day large worth getting, if you're going to be using it, definitely yes. I mean, this is about as good a bargain that you can really get for modern day cast iron. And also one other thing, notice, no, I do not grind down the surface of these pans. As you can see, this modern day large does indeed have a rough surface. No problem at all. I cook with these modern day large pans with this rough surface with no difficulty at all. And as such, I recommend anybody get yourself a 10-inch large skillet, go and start using it. You don't have to grind it down or do anything fancy. Just start using it. So the answer to that, in short, is yes. Serratus, I have a 120-plus-year-old Norwegian pan as a daily driver. Not sure if one could identify it. Well, if you'd be able to provide a photo, I could do some research. I mean, if it's from Norway, I have very little information about it. About the only thing I know for Norway is Jodel, Jotul, those particular pans that they make. But that I would not know anything about a 120-year-old Norwegian pan, but I would certainly like to learn about it. So, Radis, check out the mark and Google it. Yes, exactly. It will make your search much easier. That's probably what I would do as well. So, so you definitely called it. When was the Boy Scout by Lodge made? Oh, Boy Scout. Are you referring to the Boy Scout Dutch oven by Lodge? I'm not sure, but I believe they are still making it, if I remember right. So, because I definitely know that I saw one, or maybe even more than one, at the Lodge factory store on when I went there in April, just about a month, going on 2 months ago. Jodel makes some beautiful cast iron wood stoves. Yes, it does. All right. Serratus Mudbrooker probably could also. Yeah, he probably could as well. He's probably better than, no, he's definitely better than I am at that. That's for sure. I have a cast iron Jodel 1776 wood issue. Okay, excuse me 1 second. They're making a lot of noise. I think I'm going to have to kick them outside. Okay, 1 second. Excuse me 1 second. Guys, hey, the two of you. If you're going to be running around like that, go outside. There's a lot more room outside, and there's less chance of breaking something. Okay. Okay. Sorry for the interruption, folks, but it was kind of necessary. Anyway, back to where we were, and that is back here in the kitchen. Okay. Where was I? Jodel makes some beautiful cast iron stoves. Yes, they do. All right. Bust out the Chancellor. Rick D called it something I can't remember. From what I know, which is only large skillets with logos tell the dates. In general, that's the case, yes. Lodge does not put a manufacturing date on its standard everyday cast iron skillets. Yeah, I suppose they could, but they just haven't. Maybe it's simply not worth the effort for them, I suppose. Um, we can tell, we can date lodge skillets just because of the changes they made in the designs over the years. For instance, the lodge skillets that they're making today, for example, have the 1896 logo or mark on the pan, which is the year, of course, that Lodge was originally founded, the Blacklock Foundry. And they've only been doing that for the last several years or so. So if you see a Lodge pan that says 1896, that means it is definitely modern day. And what time is it now, by the way? It is now 9:02. So we still have a little ways to go yet. I would say probably about maybe another 10 to 15 minutes. Do you ever buy preseason cast iron when you have the option? Yes, I do, Serratus, because a number of these modern day Lodge pans I have bought brand new. And some of them I did, in fact, strip them and reseason them myself. Some of them, to be honest, I have not. Going through my collection here, I can see, for instance, I have the Lady Liberty skillet from Cracker Barrel, which I did strip. I have the Year of the Dragon skillet that I only got about a couple of months ago, which I did not strip. I'm just simply using that one. I did not strip and reseason it. I'm just using the factory seasoning. And going through the line here, I think most of these, in fact, I have actually stripped and reseasoned myself, only because the Lodge factory seasoning is really not that great, quite frankly. It tends to wear off pretty quickly. So reseasoning a modern day Lodge skillet is probably not a bad idea. All right, Chancellor. Sandal in our Mexican, Chancla, I guess. Sandal in our Mexican culture. Mom busts out the Chancellor. Is it Chancellor or Chancla? I don't know. It plays everybody on. I get it. Shit. Serratus, I had a yodel in my place in Michigan. You need to make sure the rope gaskets on the door and top are intact. Well, there is that, yes. On eBay, it's listed as Boy Scout. Yeah, again, don't take my word as the final word in regards to things like the Lodge Boy Scout Dutch oven. Although I am fairly certain that Lodge is still making and selling that Boy Scout Dutch oven even today. So before you pay through the nose for one, might want to check Lodge's website and see what they might sell a price for it. Sells a price for it. All right. How about making a? I'm actually, this is kind of blocked. You mentioned a chocolate cake, a German chocolate cake. Okay. As soon as I learn what a German chocolate cake is, obviously it's a variation on a chocolate cake. So I will have to check that out and see what that turns out to be. But yeah, I would love to. I mean, I enjoy making these cakes in these cast iron pans. Speaking of which, let me check oven light. Oh yeah, this thing is turning out quite nicely so far. Let me see if I can get a good view here for everybody. The problem is that the glare from that light doesn't do a very well. That's actually not a bad view, I think. So yeah, this cake is rising nicely, and as I said, I did not even use all of the batter. So we are off to a really good start with this. I would have to say it looks like we could start checking on that cake in about 10 minutes or so. So in other words, that's only going on about 45 minutes because I believe it was 8:28. It is now almost 9:08, which means it has been 40 minutes. So somewhere in the next 5 or 10 minutes, we will be able to check the cake. Have you, Serratus again, have you ever encountered a pan that is difficult to season? Yes, I have. I have a carbon steel one that couldn't cook a piece of bacon without surgically removing it with a laser. Um, not quite like that, I should say, but I have had a couple of pans that have indeed been very difficult to season, and for different reasons. Two of the toughest pans that I've had a lot of trouble seasoning are in fact the modern day so-called deluxe or luxury cast iron skillets from Finex and Stargazer, both of which I'm pleased to say that were granted to me as gifts in one way or another, and because I never would have paid the prices for those. However, now that I have them, I am very glad to own them, and I definitely will keep on using them, and I have no intention of getting rid of them. However, both of those pans were a real pain in the pita bread to season. The Finex, really, it's like it took good few years before I was able to really put a decent seasoning on that Finex pan. And in fact, if I remember right, I even completely stripped and re-seasoned it more than once trying to get the seasoning to work right. And in fact, I could say the same thing about the Stargazer skillet. The Stargazer skillet was initially so smooth that there was trouble getting it to re-season. And then, in fact, that was so much of a problem that Stargazer actually redesigned their pans. If you get a modern day Stargazer skillet today, you will find that the surface is actually not glass smooth. It is, in fact, has just a little bit of a groove or roughness to it to enable the seasoning to stick. On the other hand, let me pull out here again. Here is my Stargazer skillet that I have had for the last few years now. The date on this one says 2019. So this thing is about almost 7 years old. And as you can see, I have managed to put some decent seasoning on it. Yes, I know you can still see some blotches on it even now, but it took a long time to get a decent seasoning here on this Stargazer skillet, because this again is one of the first generation Stargazers that does have the glass smooth surface. And I'm very glad to use it. I like using this pan. I'm actually quite happy with it, despite the fact that it was really, really difficult to season. And since I have brought that one out, I might as well bring out the other one that I was just talking about. Especially since, wait a second, do I have to break out? Yeah, that's right. In fact, I've got to, I had better, oh no, that's right. I already have the Blacklock skillet there. In fact, I do believe it's time to start heating up that Blacklock skillet. So here comes the other pan that I was talking about. But, okay, Blacklock skillet, go. All right, now I've started that so that we can toast some pecans. Oh yeah, this thing's already fairly hot just from the residual heat of the stove. Anyway, as I mentioned, here is the other one that I had a lot of trouble seasoning. The Finex cast iron skillet. That, in fact, this Christmas is going to be the 10th anniversary of my owning this skillet. I received this as a Christmas present in 2014. So I've actually had this thing 10 years. And it took several years of use before I was able to get some decent seasoning on this Finex skillet. And again, even now, if you look at the surface, as you can see, yes, it is in fact still uneven even now. However, just like the Stargazer, I really enjoy using this skillet. This is my go-to steak pan, for instance. So I am quite happy to own it, even though, again, I never would have paid all the money that they would have cost to actually buy one. I received it as a Christmas present, and I'm very, very grateful for having received it as such. But nonetheless, it did take some patience, but I did manage to get this thing finally seasoned. So yeah, so that's actually one advantage of, like, say, modern day lodge skillets, for instance. They are in fact much easier to season because they definitely have some experience with that. All right, let's put these things back in their initial positions, and back into the kitchen we go. Leonard the Committed. My mom gave me a 12-inch Stargazer skillet for Christmas one year. Oh, right upside my head. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you probably still have the mark from it, in fact. Serratus, if a cast iron pan gets overheated like in a wood or house fire, it changes the iron and it won't take to seasoning. That is true. I have a Wagner skillet, in fact, that was practically destroyed in a house fire. Cannot season it. So yeah, Kirk, somebody, Kirk. Oh, Kirk, do you have any tulip handle, fancy flower handle cast iron pans from the 1800s? Yes, I do have one, in fact. Let me, before I do that, I'm just double checking here. I think it might be time to check these things here before I actually show off any more pans from my collection. So, the first thing is, time now. Let's change around our view here once again to this board here. And actually, I got to go into my drawer and dig out, here it is, the cake tester. I've already said the story of this cake tester here, and it's because of that story that I actually am glad to use this thing. I thought it was silly that this thing was marked as cake tester, but now that I know the history of this thing, as I said, I'm actually quite happy. Okay, let us put our gloves back on. Got a pair of these Cuisinart silicone of gloves. Just got to be careful, of course, that the pan doesn't slip. And let's give it a try and see what happens. Oh man, has this thing ever risen? Okay, let's be careful. I don't want this thing to fall. But wow, look at this. Not bad at all, I would say. In fact, I'd better give you folks a better view. Let's move up a little bit. There we go. But check that out. And again, I only filled that pan like about 3/4 of the way through. So two things I want to do right now. One is, let's get a couple of pictures of this. This turned out quite nice. I'm quite happy with that. Click, 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 and click. And now, of course, the other is to use the cake tester and see, in fact, if this cake is done. So in we go. Oh, yeah. Hey, look at that. So far, so good. Let's try a second time on the other end. Nice. Haha. Only 45 minutes and this cake is done. That means I can turn off the oven. Yay. So far, so good. That means I've got 20 minutes before I flip the cake. Chocolate cake. Yeah, that's just it. You saw how much red food coloring I put into this thing? How come my cakes don't turn red? This thing is supposed to be a red velvet cake. Does it look red to you? Sure doesn't look red to me. And I used a whole tube of food coloring in this. So, all right, there's got to be some secret to making these red velvet cakes that I don't know yet. So, as far as that is concerned, well, I have no doubt this is going to be a tasty cake, though. So, I'm quite happy with that. As I said, this thing turned out very nicely. However, I'm still a little perturbed that this does not look like a red velvet cake. All right, that blew my mind. This must be the issue, as I scorched it repeatedly and Brillo patted and started over to no avail. Asian chefs use carbon steel on high heat. Oh, yes, they do. You go to any decent Chinese restaurant, for instance. The woks that they use in those restaurants are almost always carbon steel. They're definitely not nonstick woks. They are carbon steel, and boy, as you know, they use like those rocket engine type of heaters on those stoves. But here we are again, folks. Now that we've done this, and I see there's even some steam coming out, I think at this point we can check our other dish that is going on. For this, I had better get my pot holder because I have no doubt this thing is nice and hot. Let's see what we have here. And it looks like Oh yeah, this is actually better than I thought. I was worried for a second that there was still some residual liquid in this, but I do believe we have what we set out to do here. Nice. With some noise, Royce pilaf. All right. Now that we have done this, though, we need to get to part 2 of this. Okay, while that cake is still sitting and cooling, I can turn off the heat here and leave this uncovered, which means I have to put this pan somewhere, this lid somewhere. Excuse me, especially since this is a hot lid. Hot lid, let me put it quickly over here. The moment, put it on my rack on top of the BSR number 10. Okay, this is some nice rice pilaf, but here is where we do things a little bit differently. While we've been doing this, I have been heating up this Blacklock 10-inch skillet because let me dig out the last part of this recipe, which is not my recipe. It's one that I'm trying out here. Let me see. Heat up second skillet and uncover rice and let rest. The rice should maintain a slightly firm texture. And now from here we toast up some pecans. The thing about pecans, of course, is that they tend to burn, right? So we definitely need to be careful here. Yeah, I chopped up some pecans. Essentially, I'm just going to run these through for a few minutes until they get toasty. And as I said, I want to be sure not to burn them, which means this is kind of like doing a roux here. Got to be careful, got to keep stirring. We do not want these things to burn. And I hear somebody coming down the stairs. Hello. Hello. Well, that wonderful smell could be either this rice pilaf here or that chocolate cake there. Okay, well, yeah, if you want to come and take a look. The camera is not focused on there. At this moment, I am toasting up some pecans. And I got to be careful that these things don't burn, of course, so I have to keep doing it. But nonetheless, if you want to sample some of that, feel free to do so. Get yourself out a fork or spoon or something. Yeah, and despite what you said earlier, yes, I did use orzo in it. Not to worry. Okay, to this, we are going to mix in some toasted pecans, a few dried cherries, and a little bit of chili oil, which is definitely not traditional, though, I will say that. Anyway, as I said, I just got to keep an eye on these pecans here because I remember the words of Alton Brown. If you smell nuts, they're burned. So, gotta be careful. Anyway, doing this, as I mentioned already, in the Blacklock skillet, which again was Lodge's. This was released by Lodge a few years ago, and I am positive they released this one as their Blacklock line, especially to compete with the luxury cast iron pans we've been seeing from Field and Stargazer and Grizzly and Yeti and Butter Pat and so many more of those. In that respect, well, as far as competing with them, don't know. I do know, though, that they are very nice and very light cast iron pans. I got this one especially to use as a chef's skillet, and I feel that it does a very good job of that. Let me see comments here. I've never had red velvet cake. I imagine it tastes like Martian wedding cake. I suppose you could say that. However, this red velvet cake is turning out harder to make than I anticipated. As I mentioned, and we'll get a shot of that in just a few minutes, I am rather happy with how the cake turned out, yet it definitely did not look red, did it? I mean, I only used like a full tube of food coloring in it, and that still does not seem to have turned the cake red. Nonetheless, okay, I've got to do this as quickly as I can. We're probably about done here since this is a hot cast iron pan. And as I said enough times already, I do not want to burn these things. All right, hello, Radagast. Can't stay long, getting ready to go to the hospital. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope everything is okay. Simply asking on a good and safe channel. Yes, exactly. Well, I do not want there to be arguments and drama on this channel. I've had more than enough drama, both on the internet and off the internet. And I like to consider my channel to be something of a safe space in that respect. At least for the most part. I have occasionally done videos about some controversial subjects. And I'll leave it at that. And I'm starting to hear a little bit of crackling from these. I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to move this to the side. And from there, that means we have the last thing to do. And that is, okay, from here we need to do, this is also something non-traditional that we're going to be adding to this rice pilaf, and that will be chili oil. Not too much of it. It mentions here, what did that recipe say? It says 1 tablespoon chili oil. And that's, I'm not even sure if I'm going to use that much because I don't want to drown it. So, although this is a big, there we go, that's probably enough. This is a big dish. I mean, this is a big skillet, that's for sure. But now that I've done that, let's mix it all in. Oh yeah, I'm hearing some nice sizzling though, I will say that much. So definitely this Griswold has done its work, that's for sure. All right, and to this, we do need to throw in some salt. Come on. Need to throw in some salt, probably enough, and some pepper. There we go, that's probably enough pepper. Mix it all together, especially so that it's not too salty. And here again is where we get non-traditional. Time now to mix in those pecans. So in they go. Pecans. And then from here, something else that's also not traditional. Well, no, actually the next part is kind of traditional. We are also going to mix in some parsley, chopped parsley, which I happen to have right here. Did it in advance. There we go, mix it all together. Let it soak in. This is not turning out too badly. At least it doesn't look too badly. All right. And so far, so good. Okay. All right. They tell me it's done every day and no big deal. Well, I can only hope so, Radagast. Good luck with that. Finally, the last thing that we mix in, some dried cherries. Wondering if I should have chopped these things up, but I did not take the time to do so. Oh, no, these are not very big. That's probably enough. These, again, are cherries. They're not raisins. They're not prunes. There we go. I do have to say, it does indeed give it some color and some variety. So, yeah. This I don't think is turning out too badly at all. This may be something even I might have to save. Because, look at this. I do believe we have rice pilaf. Maybe a few more cherries, in fact, just so that you can see them. I don't think they're overwhelming the dish yet. There we go. Whoa. Now they might overwhelm it. Shit. Well, then let's just mix them all around. Yeah, that's right. And besides, these dried cherries should be able to absorb a little bit of moisture at least from the rest of the dish. Well, there we go. With the pecans and the chili oil. This is what, according to the recipe, Southern style rice pilaf. Although I have to say, chili oil doesn't seem very traditional. Nonetheless, this does not look bad at all. Let me take a couple more pictures of this and let's turn off the heat. Click, 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 click. And I do believe we are just in time. Here comes somebody who's coming down the stairs. Hello. All right, because it looks like the rice is done. We are going to be leaving in a few minutes. I have to do one other thing, and that would be to flip this cake. But if you don't mind, excuse me 1 second while I have to call up to. Hold on. Okay, I need to my house guests, who I'm not going to mention by name because I'm live. I can tell them that the rice pilaf is ready if they'd like to come down. All right, I figure they will be coming down now because I do believe we have it. Oh, nice. Cake and rice, what a combo. Yes, exactly. And yeah, this is, again, is rice pilaf done with, with long grain rice and orzo. And to this, we mixed in some pecans and some dried cherries. And I have to say, it certainly looks good. So now all we need to do is serve it to my house guests. Actually, if everybody would like some, if you're interested in some rice pilaf, please feel free because there's plenty here. All right, once again, the camera is simply focused on the dish, so no need to worry there. Here you go. All right, no problem at all. And as always, as you know, I appreciate criticism. The most important thing is I hope it tastes okay. All right. Hello, Glurb Schnurb. If you set up a Streamlabs account, you'll get 100% of the tips from your viewers. Better than YouTube, 70% of your tips from the audience. Well, that's certainly possible. I've got so many things I need to do. I'm not sure if I have the time, unfortunately, to set up a Streamlabs too. Nonetheless, let them eat cake and rice, which is a sign that it's time to move to the last step, and then we're going to call it an evening. And that is, we move away from our rice pilaf to the cake. The cake done in a vintage cast iron cake pan. This is the part that always makes me nervous because as I've said before, this particular method I have for making a cake in cast iron has a high success rate, but not 100%. So every time I flip one of these cakes, I hold my breath because I do not know if it is going to be a success. So that means we get to, I better get my glove or pot holder again. Here it is here. All right, we can start releasing the cake from the sides. It looks like it's releasing nicely, which again is a good sign. You better make sure it can release it here from the center though. As little sticking as possible. Yeah, this all looks pretty good. So I am pretty hopeful that we will have it. But there's only one way to find out, folks, which means time once again for that moment. Okay, put this on top. Get out my gloves. And time to do the flip. Let's do this right, shall we? All right, come on. Okay, move this out of the way. And carefully, it doesn't help that these silicone gloves here don't hold very well. Means I and ha. Okay, it looks like I had better center it. Is the video still centered? Yes, it is. Okay, well, folks, you get to be witness once again to this moment. Ready? Now it's an upside down cake. In a way it is, yes. But now we get to see what happens. A 1, a 2, a 3. Ha ha! We got it! Oh, yay. And with that, the suspense is over. Excuse me, you got somebody passing by here. Oh, we got it. And yeah, look at the design on the top of this cake. This, again, I'm very, very happy to have this particular cake pan here. All right, but it was a success. So, yet again, though, I've got to repeat the little gripe I made earlier. I used a whole tube of food coloring in this thing. Does this look like a red cake to you? No. So, on the other hand, it's still going to be a delicious tasting cake. As I mentioned, I mixed in just a little bit of balsamic to give it a unique taste to it. So, more like the red velvet that you might get. So, despite all that, at least we got it. All right. Yeah, as I said, I really like the design of this. I am so happy to have stumbled across that cake pan. Gel food coloring is more concentrated and delivers a much more saturated punch in terms of color. I use the gel, I'm sorry to say. Used in cake decorating where you don't want to add a lot of extra liquid. So for whatever reason, I'm going to have to try yet again at some point to make a successful red velvet cake. Regardless, this certainly looks like a successful cake. So now we just get to let it cool off, and then it'll be time to decorate it. That will come later tonight because I do believe we are all set. This has been quite a night. And yeah, I am actually, despite all that, happy with how this all turned out because here's one last look at our rice pilaf. And again, the red velvet cake. There we go. And with that, I think all I could say is happy Juneteenth, everybody. Because yeah, that's, again, tried to do this in a manner to celebrate Juneteenth as a commemoration for the historical notice of this day. I'm still not going to get into a long political discussion over this because that has been done all too many times. I'm just here to have fun. And so as such, I am more than happy to have been able to do this cooking tonight as a way of celebrating Juneteenth. By the way, I'm dripping with sweat here because as a lot of you know, here on the East Coast, we are having a pretty heavy heat wave right now. But we're getting through it. And yeah, having all this hot stuff going on in my kitchen tonight certainly hasn't helped. So now I get to clean up my mess and spend the rest of this evening cooling off. But as always, I can only thank everybody for watching, though, because, again, this is really what makes it all worth it. I mean, despite all of the effort and the sweat and the suspense and everything like that, it turned out pretty successful. And I can only hope as well that you folks enjoy this, because I certainly do. Having you folks here watching all of this and commenting on it really makes it worthwhile for me. And as such, I really enjoy doing that. So thank you to everybody, though, who's been kind enough, again, to show up here tonight. Cast Iron Fanatic and Hog Wild Cast Iron Restoration. Hope everyone's doing well. Have a great night. And Val's Black Cats Rules. Greg Hart, Mike B., and Jimmy Langford, and Serratus, and Rocket Caver, and everybody else who's been kind enough to show up here tonight. I can only say again that we'll be doing this all next week. As I mentioned, next week, of course, is Walk Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month. Then in 2 weeks, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to start at 6 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. and do a whole 3-hour-long live video of making jambalaya for the 4th of July. So that's going to be fun. So yeah, we definitely have some stuff to look forward to, I hope. And once again, thank you everybody for your time. And especially thank you to everybody who's been kind enough here to comment and like, subscribe, share, and all that. And especially everybody who say that they enjoy my website and my recipes and all that. That really makes me feel good, and thank you so much. So we will get all of this done, and we will wrap this up for the evening. And thank you once again to everybody for showing up. Have a good evening, folks, and happy Juneteenth and upcoming 4th of July. And once again, see you all next Wednesday. Holy cow.